You know, this is my third episode of this season, and I think it's time I did another request on the show. Once again, I heavily stress these are actual requests from viewers over on my Patreon page. And believe me when I say this one is long overdue. Because today's pick comes from my long, collaborative friend, James Sullivan. I'd like to thank him not only for his donation, but also for his patience, and the hopes that this episode lives up to his expectations. If you want to be just like him and see a movie or a TV show of your choice reviewed on the show, go over to patreon.com/vaulting, make a donation, and I'll try to work into the show somehow. With that said, in regards to today's pick, it's going to be an interesting one. Because it's an obscurity. In fact, it's so dipped into obscurity, there's no DVD release. So I start off by asking you this. What comes to mind when I say the term special effects wizard?
You shall not pass!
Cute. But I know for a fact the correct definition of a special effects wizard is a... This generation of people I live with fails me on every level.
Standing in the middle of nowhere, wondering how to begin. Lost between tomorrow and yesterday, between now and then. Back where you started, here we go round again. Back where you started, come on, do it again, do it again, do it again. Back where we started, here we go round again. Day after day I get up and I say, do it again, do it again, do it again. Day after day I get up and I say, come on, do it again, do it again, do it again,
In my definition of a good movie, it needs to have a strong plot and solid characters. It may have some flaws, but it needs to be entertaining nonetheless. That's where special effects come in. Call me old-fashioned, but I always marveled at the wizarding ways of George Méliès, Willis O'Brien, Ray Harryhausen, George Pal, and that's just to name a few. The quest to find new and inventive ways to transport moviegoers to new worlds never ends. Even today, it still goes on in the world of CGI and practical effects. But what if there was one movie that tried to show the whole world was a special effect itself? That our own reality could be a fantasy of its own too. And the real stop-motion monsters to fear were the ones that ran the system. And that the central character was a simple, young, special effects artist that wanted to show the craftsmanship and heart that one could put into feature films. Take all that what you will, mix it together, and you get the Wizard of Speed and Time. Wait, pause. Okay. Something I must address right now before we dive right in. Due to how there's very little well-known facts on how this movie got made, I had to comb through as much sources as I could find with the best of unbiased judgment. I even tried reaching out to the movie's creator, Mike Jetlove, for any accuracy, extra facts, and possibly an interview for the episode, but he politely declined. So I highly advise to viewers that what you're going to hear is an unauthorized and somewhat slightly accurate account on how this movie got made. And to Mr. Jetlove, if you are watching this, please don't sue! I did the best I could! I'm giving this review all she's got! UCLA math language major Mike Jetlove took an animation course to satisfy a college art requirement. From there, he not only made some short films for his class, but even entered them in some early 1970s film festivals. Afterwards, he bought his own 60mm camera, designed his own multiplane animation system, and created a lot of shorts that would go on to win top awards and favorably be repeated at film festival screenings. On the side, Jetlove's passion was in creating movies that presented pure escapism and less on reality. One of these was a planned science fiction feature called Speed, which was said to be part of a trilogy. It was turned down from many big-name studios because, at the time, they thought no one would pay to see a science fiction-themed trilogy. I seriously need to see a doctor about this. On the bright side, his unproduced script got him attention at the Walt Disney Studio, who hired him on as an animator for many Disney Channel promos and a set of shorts that aired on some of their TV specials. The most notable included ones about an obsessive Mickey toy collector that aired on Mickey's 50th birthday special. But the most famous was his Wizard of Speed and Time short that debuted on another Disney special called Major Effects. And trust me when I say, Jetlove's segment stood out in a very, very good way.
You're a good kid, Joseph. You're going places. I like you. That's why the next part of your training hurts me.
Hurts you?
Joseph?
Is it too late to go back to the cool green wizard who can make camera stands move? Anyway, here's where some of the behind-the-scenes stuff gets spotty, so don't quote me on this. From what I understand, the Wizard short got some popularity at science fiction conventions, and its notability prompted Jetlove to create a feature film that would not only show how the short got created, but also reflected his experiences working with Disney in a more satirical presentation. Not only would Mike Jetlove play as himself, but the movie would also showcase a good bulk of his previous material. The film cleverly uses the first act to present a demo reel of not only what Jetlove could do, but also gives an idea of the type of person you want to root for. I know it takes the underdog approach, but they really have you connected with this guy from the start. The first 20 minutes alone showcase not only the talents Jetlove has, but even his acting ability. Yeah, he actually plays as himself. And he's very believable, too.
I'd rather work with someone who cares about what he's doing. I've met so many superficial people, it's hard to tell who's real. Why are you smiling?
Not too many people think I'm real.
You're sensitive.
Yeah, sometimes a little too much.
Are movies the only way you can touch people?
They're the safest way.
We see some of his notable work, like, holy crap, how did he get a hold of George Pal's time machine? Anyway, we see a style of stop motion, pixelation, cinematography, and other elements that make it an impressive one-man band studio. And while we do see his incredible craft, we get a sense of who Jetlove is behind the curtain. Even if this is set in the movie's world, we understand that Jetlove wants to inspire and create things. Not just for the sake of fame. Which I will guess and say is only 1/8 of the equation. I hope. But for the sake of creating movies for the audience to enjoy. And you can really feel that in some of the emotional moments, which, even I admit, gets me teary-eyed, especially when you know a bit more of Jetlove's history.
All the big things I should have done by now, if I wasn't so busy doing little things. I wonder how many other people are out there, writing stories and scripts that nobody else may ever read. Maybe I shouldn't make films for a living. If we could live on hopes and wishes, make movies with the speed of thought, all the films that could have been, and all the dreams that I could spin.
And this guy has not gotten a Best Actor from the Academy Award because... Alright, due to the Academy's poor judging abilities, and the annoying union laws which are depicted accurately here as well. Heck, I wouldn't be surprised if this is how unions work today.
only a dozen little animated light.
No, you can't move them. Gotta join the Grippers Guild.
I have to be an apprentice first?
For 3 consecutive years, but you can't be over 25 years old.
This is simple back projection.
Go see Union Projectionist.
But it's just projected to a painted mat.
Then also join the Painters Guild.
Get his number.
He doesn't have the number.
Then give him the number and take it away.
This is insane!
That is the system.
After setting up the Wizard's universe, the real plot kicks in when 2 Hollywood talents are trying to organize a TV show about special effects. One of them is a good-hearted movie director named Lucky Stryker. Get it? Named after Lucky Strike cigarettes? And the other is a producer named Harvey Bookman, who is more concerned about success and obtaining big names than the value of art.
If your Hollywood's greatest effects television special doesn't get higher ratings than our competition's Dr. Magic show, you are out! Don't worry, CC. It's gonna be big. We're getting names. Name effects people. Name actors. Name stars.
Yeah, tale as old as time indeed. Lucky wants Jetlove to showcase his work for the TV special and makes a bet with Harvey that Jetlove will fail to create something for their show. As one would guess, Harvey tries to sabotage Jetlove's efforts, but along the way, the Wizard himself finds the way around it. Their studio is reduced to a garage, they hold a garage sale to raise some funds, they take old film canisters and recycle them when they can't be allowed to take union-owned ones.
And so on and so on and so on.
Personally, the best parts of the movie are when we see Jetlove's work on the short. We are presented with a realistic look into how it was made while understanding the challenges that come with it.
Got it.
We're off.
Only 1,620 frames more, and we got it made.
And this is how movies should be made. No studio hassles, everything's ready, just get together and film.
What benefits more is the choice to have real people portray these characters in the movie, as opposed to, say, something like Mark Hamill playing as Mike Jetlove. Of course, every character in the movie, with the exception of Mike, is given a different name. But by having a special effects artist play as himself, a producer playing a Hollywood studios producer, and an actress playing a struggling actress, it makes the situations around the making of the short more believable because you have a sense they are familiar with certain elements like the hardships of stop motion and certain natural interferences.
The camera! Everything I shot! I love a good storm! This isn't happening!
Okay, now, between the drops!
This is not the way to make movies!
It could be worse. We could be trying to film all this animation in the middle of an earthquake or something.
Don't say that!
Or calm weather! Perfectly calm! Quiet! Quiet! It worked.
They even have the movie's composer John Massari play a pizza guy who happens to know how to do musical score.
Got an idea. What? If you're singing, your lips are moving. And that'll be too hard to take out in the end.
You mean lip sync pixelation?
Sure. What's your budget?
Currently, John is more noteworthy for composing movies such as Killer Clowns from Outer Space. But back then, he was more known as the Pizza Dude. Just as long as you don't order the house special, you'll be fine.
Holy mackerel.
Do you have a plain one in the truck?
Oh, you want cheese?
Yes.
With this choice of having these people semi-play as themselves, it took me back to my time when I was young and wanted to make movies. When I had the chance, I would use a high school class project as an excuse to test my editing skills, or any kind of special effects. Even though I don't hold some of these shorts in high regards, I look back on the experience fondly and can relate to what they're doing here. When they are in complete control of their work, you can just tell how much fun everyone is having, but still understand the difficulties of pulling off a major effect in front of the camera lens. Opposite to that...
Now look, I want to see Big Bang all around the Rocket Girls. I want to see video explosions everywhere. I want to see little meteors shooting out into space. I didn't say rockets, and I didn't say rockets. I said rockets.
Better take a look at these effect prices.
Don't talk about prices. I need production value. This has got to be big time. I need huge. You're still fired. And that goes for the rest of you. $600 a sparkle, we're already over budget.
It's in the script, Harvey. The scene doesn't make sense without it.
All right, one sparkle. That's all you get. Thank you.
I did mention that this guy was the producer of the movie, and also Mike's business partner at the time. More on that later. It would be best to not give too much away with the other half of the movie. Stakes do get raised as Harvey challenges Jetlove and his crew further to expand on their short, go outside the garage, and do location filming. As expected, this creates further dangers to anyone who knows the risk of filming outside the comfort of any studio, or even their home for that matter. This is done in a more comedic fashion. From Bronson Cave, to a random street corner with police on patrol, and my personal favorite, the brick wall of an IRS building.
Security to the east wall!
To go over this movie's second half, that would require me to go over every single nook and cranny that occurs, and it would just be unfair. I would just be ruining some good jokes and little inside Easter eggs that would be great for newcomers to discover. In fact, my words alone can't do much justice for all the things that happen. In terms of tone, it's literally everywhere. The best way to describe this movie is the house we see Jet Love live in. It's full of random toys and objects that almost have a Pee Wee Herman feel. I like how they're always moving and feel alive as if the house is a character itself. Even Jet Love's room looks like one big studio. There are times it feels like a museum of his work, considering how his bedroom has a bunch of artifacts around the wall and on some of the shelves. This prompts a lot of rewatch value to the point you can pick up on certain Easter eggs in the background. And for those who know Jet Love's history, you can spot unrealized projects like Speed, to which something makes me wonder what the full scope of the project could have become. The entire movie is full of tongue-in-cheek dialogue that helps the audience in on the joke. This is a universe you're not supposed to take seriously. It feels like a cartoon version of our reality that feels close to life, but it's not too far removed from the satirical enjoyment to be ruined.
I'll bet you couldn't even make a real movie with bedroom scenes, chase scenes, crowd scenes, music. You gotta have wide shots, 2 shots, medium shots, close-ups, ECUs, over the shoulders, sync sound. You're just an effects man.
The best comparisons I can think of that took a similar approach are Wayne's World and UHF. Both movies have an over-exaggerated reality and underdog characters. You really connect with them and understand their goals. And when something goes wrong in their world, or, say, the antagonist gets in the way, you really feel that risk, and the knowledge that something bad will happen, like the entire universe will explode.
It might happen. Yeah, and monkeys might fly out of my butt.
It's a case where anything goes, and we wish our lives were just like theirs. This movie is kind of like that. For those who are not lovers of films, we still feel that driving passion Mike Jet Love has. And for those who are lovers of film, we connect with that very personally and enjoy the ride. To say this movie is a masterpiece would be too much. There are a couple of nitpicks I do have which don't hurt the movie, but they kind of bug me a little. Once in a while, we see a thought bubble when someone is thinking of something. It works for scenes like when we see Mike's mother dream about her son, or when we see a flashback. It only feels a little distracting when it happens during a new character's introduction. Also, once in a while, the editing will act strange, like cutting in the middle of a shot. This happens a couple of times in the movie, and it just feels weird. There's a small subplot involving 2 goons that Harvey hires that kinda goes nowhere. They feel like a Diet Coke version of Cheech and Chong and get in the way of the movie. Once in a while, they do get a funny moment and become essential to a big chase scene near the end. But if you just remove their early scenes, the movie would probably flow a bit better without them. Then there is this moment early on when Mike tries to get hired on to do special effects work for the Dr. Magic show. A rude secretary, played by Star Trek alien veteran Angelic Pettyjohn, denies him to see the producer for a variety of ridiculous reasons. And Mike uses this retort.
Last night in the office when everyone left.
You! Now!
Hello!
Giddy up! Faster! Come on! How did you know about that?
It's a special effect.
I honestly don't know how to feel about that joke. I mean, back then it was probably fine, but in today's culture, not so much. Again, these moments don't ruin the enjoyment. Every movie has their own flaws or tiny things that folks will disagree with. The Wizard of Speed and Time does present pure passion in filmmaking. In the end, you want to see Jet Love win and get the success of his viewers that he dreams of. If only this movie wasn't so foretelling. This might come as a spoiler to some, but because of how crucial the details are, I gotta bring this up. I don't know the entire details, but from what I understand, Mike's business partner, again, acting as the antagonistic producer, was the film's producer and caused some problems during production and afterwards. I can't really call creative differences on this one as I don't know the details too much and I don't want to jump into personal affairs. The only things I can confirm is that Jetlov poured his entire life savings into the movie with the hopes that his business partner would help produce the keys to his success. It didn't happen. Distributing the movie didn't fare better either. From what I could research, The Wizard of Speed and Time was set into limited release, as akin to a rock and roll concert. Basically, they would bring the movie on tour and play it in a certain amount of theaters for a certain amount of time. The last I heard they attempted this kind of release was on Mystery Science Year 3000 the movie. No joke. Interestingly enough, when The Wizard of Speed and Time was released to Boston, Massachusetts, it ran for 3 weeks longer than was originally planned, proving to be a smashing success. And then it was moved over to a different local theater in some suburb. And then it was released quietly to home video and Laserdisc without much fanfare. With the unfortunate possibility that it would just fade away into obscurity.
This isn't the money or the time. It's just that we all worked so hard and made something really good to prove to the system.
However, over time, people have come forth and said to be diehard fans of The Wizard of Speed and Time, and some have said to see it as a personal influence. They have come forth to preserve not only what makes this movie good, but also the history of the man who was behind the camera and in front of it. The cult appeal of this movie has been growing strong because of how so much easy things can be found on the internet. Well, somewhat. And while there is no DVD or Blu-ray release, you can still watch it on YouTube, with permission by Jetlov himself. What has me more curious is that the version of the movie that we're seeing today is only 75% complete. Which only makes me wonder, what else is there left to do? Are there really some unfinished effects that I've never noticed, at least until now? The Right Stuff and Evil Dead didn't come out, so is there something that's supposed to be there? Are there full scenes that never got completed or added in? And if so, will they involve more of this guy? I don't know why, I just find him charming. I should bring up there does exist 2 edits of this movie. The Laserdisc released by SJE Entertainment, which is the version currently being circulated heavily online, and a VHS copy that was released by Star Maker in 1983. It should be noted the Star Maker VHS release is 3 minutes longer and holds some footage and alternate music cues in certain scenes. This version is worth a watch if you're a diehard fan. To newcomers, I say you're not missing too much from this version. The differences here are relatively minor and don't add too much to the plot. In fact, the SJE version runs somewhat smoother without these bits. I do admit there is a moment or two that I feel should have been worth keeping in the Laserdisc edit.
I think you're kind of special. I felt that when I saw your film. You really love your work.
Well, my work gives me a way to make people feel good. And when they feel that way, I kind of feel it too.
You're sensitive.
Yeah, sometimes a little too much.
And once in a while, some of the lines in the Star Maker cut do get a small chuckle.
Vamos! Hey, you doing? You clean it up. No, no, vámonos, vámonos! Don't you understand English, man? I'm Canadian, eh? All right. March!
And others were probably cut for good reason.
Oh! See, I got this sure thing now. It's called Teenage Extraterrestrials. T-E-E-T. Get it? It's a sure thing. It can't lose.
Until some special director's cut comes forth, my best recommendation is to stick with the SG Entertainment Laserdisc cut that's being passed around. But the idea of a secondary version that exists only adds more to the mystery of what truly is incomplete. This isn't the first time something like this has happened. Joe Dante never got to finish Explorers, and thus a workprint edit of what was completed at the time was sent to theaters. Current home video versions are slightly tweaked, but Dante's true vision never got fully realized. And of course, there is infamously Richard Williams' Thief and the Cobbler. With the Thief's workprint cut viewed in the public eye, the audience can see a blueprint of what was intended. This is a different case altogether. Because of how there's so much little information known about what Mike Jetlov originally intended for the film, we're practically looking at a complete jigsaw puzzle that looks good to us, But unto the artist, they know what's truly missing. I do hope someday we get to see what Mike Jetlove originally envisioned. But it all depends on whether the viewer's interested and if the time and tools are truly available. Regardless, The Wizard of Speed and Time is more than just a love letter to movie making. It is a love letter to movies in general. This might not be for everyone's taste as the story's a bit jumbled, but as one who enjoys the craftsmanship of story, special effects, and cinematic enjoyment, this comes with a high recommendation. The fans and enthusiasts have been preserving its existence since its home video release, and you can see why. Jetlove has charm, the effects are still impressive to this day, and you can see there is a great passion all around. I didn't even show you half of the other special effects scenes or even some of the other jokes that still leave me in fits of laughter. And that is because this gem is worth seeing to believe its magic. And while Jetlove hasn't done too much big filmmaking, he did sort of get his chance by working as a special effects technician on the movie Ghost. Mike, if you are watching this, thanks for the nightmare fuel you gave me my childhood! And just so this episode doesn't end on a dark note, sing along, everybody!
We're here to cheer a wizard, the Wizard of Hollywood. We're finding joy and laughter in our wild neighborhood. In green jacket and tennis shoes, a dream maker of magical views. All lights and sound will dance around the Wizard of Hollywood. Wood. Anyway, in any place, a wizard of speed and time and space can race along and find the song to bring our dreams alive. Oh, we're off to help the Wizard of Hollywood. We'll sing it to the starry skies throughout the neighborhood. A zillion friends are at your side, their courage and love and talent will guide. We're marching on a magical ride with the Wizard of Speed and Time.
Cut.